Biggest box office hits in the films in the last year have been American action movies. Of course, the #1 of them all, Sylvester Stallone as Rambo. They've been lining up for it for months, and here's a little bit of what Rambo does. They seem the newest big thing in movies, but is there really anything new about these American action-adventure movies like Rambo or Schwarzenegger as Commando? I'm joined by a film critic, Bill Casselman. Your opinion is that there is nothing really all that new about them.
I wouldn't go that far. I think there's some new things if you think about Rambo. First of all, just looking at that clip, you know, the body of King Kong, the mind of Tweety Bird. I thought I saw a foreigner. Boop, 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 boop. That's new. That kind of overt racism, I think, is new. I don't think that was around. It certainly wasn't around in literature in the 19th century and in the early 20th century. It took movies to put that stuff right on the screen so that we see it. And if we have any kind of moral compunctions whatsoever, Peter, I think it's mildly upsetting to think that the Americans still don't want to leave poor little Vietnam alone, that they want to send that Hulk back to stomp them again, you know?
Is it to a degree like the way the Duke used to stomp the, dare I say it, the Indian people in those movies?
Well, there's some interesting parallels, I think, between Rambo and this character that Stallone has created and Duke Wayne. But the only one that comes to my mind right now is the suspicion of language. Kill him! I mean, there's in some of these movies that we're going to talk about, there's one movie called The Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's just a clone, in which he has 6 words. Kill, stomp, disembowel.
Well, he's supposed to be a robot in that one,
but
to be fair.
But it's a suspicion of language that's very frightening. Now, in Western movies, there was always, stranger, we don't cotton to you around here, especially people who can talk.
Yes.
Know what I mean? Now, that thing was in John Wayne movies, and that's certainly in these films. Stallone has 3 pages of dialogue in Rambo.
And yet, of course, you say the body of King Kong. Schwarzenegger, of course...
Interesting thing about Rambo, no foreign soundtrack was necessary. There's no French soundtrack of Rambo. There's no German soundtrack of Rambo. Just put it into the theaters.
And it's understood around the world.
All violence, that's right.
Let's have a look at Schwarzenegger, because this is very much the same thing. This is him as the Commando, so he's supposed to be a real flesh and blood person in this. And let's roll that and see what Schwarzenegger does for fun.
Miss Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's what Major, you did.
I lied.
Now, this is a good guy, right?
No, this is a good guy, but that clip illustrates the main difference between Schwarzenegger and Stallone. And the simple fact is, Arnold at least has the good sense to laugh at himself. Because these people, these are the heroes for 10-year-old boys. These are men bulked up beyond parody. Now, I think we should talk about this just briefly, because these guys are very popular right now in the movies. And they're very popular with 12-year-old kids, but not all 12-year-old kids. I want to show you a copy of a magazine that's designed for 14-year-old kids. They're not all sucked in by Rambo.
Roll it over here, down.
All right.
Drop that down.
They're not all sucked in by Rambo, because here's Mad Magazine with Reagan pointing a finger at Central America. After Rambo cleans up on Vietnam, then he's going to move on down south. And Mad Magazine picks that up. But these guys in the movie, and look at Sylvester. Now, guys with breasts like watermelons are not heroes, folks. They're freaks. Let's talk about that. If any normal guy has ever been in a gymnasium watching these guys, the guys with the most massive chests, you know, right across the door frame, are guys with, I want to put this in the most childish way possible, little weenies.
Okay.
All right? In other words, the people who bulk up are overcompensating like mad. If you take every one of them and look at, there's something in their history they're overcompensating for. For example, the guy who plays the Incredible Hulk, Lou Ferrigno. Now, I'm not making fun of Lou,
no, but
the guy is a symphony of dyslexia.
Yes.
He can't read, he can't write, he can barely get through doors without little dwarfs guiding him. But when he was a kid, now naturally this is a very horrible thing for a kid, he became a weightlifter to overcome the fact that he couldn't whistle and tie his shoes at the same time. So these guys are not heroes. That's the first thing.
Well,
I want to get that straight.
They are not wonderful people. In fact, they are being perceived as heroes by the film audience, right?
Well, the film audience. Now, who goes to see these consistently? I go because I'm paid, and I'm not going to lie. I like the action scenes. But who goes, Peter, day after day after day? These are movies for people who find stop signs too challenging. Now, let's face it. The dregs of the earth go to these movies. I've been at these movies when there are bets.
Bill,
I bet he's going to get another gook. And popcorn back and forth.
These are some of the
audience.
biggest box office movies of all time, yeah. So surely not everyone, everyone who goes is...
They just illustrate the old maxim, which you've heard before. You'll never go broke underestimating the taste of the American public. And that's one thing I'll give Stallone. He knows that sitting out there in the darkness of America are these gronks who just are never going to forgive what happened to America in Vietnam.
Serious point, though, for a minute. Do these things have an effect? Say they're being seen in a great measure by adolescent boys. Are they affecting them? Do they have a negative effect? Does Hollywood have a responsibility to key down the violence?
Well, responsibility. I don't think Hollywood has any thoughts. I think if a thought ever got loose in the studios where these things are made, it would crawl up an alleyway, someone would stuff cocaine up its nose, and it would die, poor little thought. So as far as moral compunctions, these guys would just laugh at you. They just want the money, and they know that if you have the maximum number of bullets exploding into the maximum number of heads, you got B.O., box office, you got a big hit. I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't believe in censorship. I believe you should be able to show this stuff, but you should label it. If it's crap, it should be labeled, and if you're going to take a 12-year-old kid or let a 15-year-old go, just make sure that they know what they're going to see. And if this is, imagine if this is the only thing some 15-year-old kid finds out about Vietnam. I'd like him to at least see that picture of the little girl running down the road whose clothes have been burnt off by napalm.
Everything is so black and white in these films that in fact, you don't think that's dangerous, that people perceive the world in such simple terms?
I think most people are healthy enough to grow up, and I think 20 years from now we'll be laughing at this stuff.
One of the things that Hollywood does, of course, is imitate success endlessly and endlessly and endlessly. So these movies will be coming out for how long? Well,
I'll tell you something. Next, in the spring of '86, we have Rambo as a cartoon, and we have Rambo action figures coming out just at Easter. I'm sure there's no significance. Rambo action figures with little Vietnamese people, and you stick Rambo's rifle into the front of the little Vietnamese figure, and it flies apart. The exploding gook, $4.98 at a toy store near you. Now, I'm not buying that.
Something is happening in American action movies. I have a feeling Bill Casselman doesn't like it.